All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ, where the top 5 Tennessee Volunteers continue their torrid streak through the SEC. Dalton Connect looking like the National Player of the Year in college basketball after Matt Green's Georgia Bulldogs experienced that firsthand in the Steg on Saturday afternoon.
Hey, the ball's barely escaped, sir.
Never a doubt. For the orange and white Matt Green. And that voice you hear right there, my good friend, fellow University of North Georgia alumni, Matt Green. Matt, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, sir. It is good to be back with you. Another excellent showing for the Dogs basketball team this week too. Beat South Carolina on the road. So, Mike White's got that club playing. Everything School HQ in Athens, Georgia.
I'm sorry. Is your baseball team top 10 too? It's kicking off in a couple weeks, or no?
We get preseason rankings over here. We all know what Tennessee's going to do down the stretch. They're not going to win anything. Come on. They don't win championships in Knoxville, sir. They're pretty good at everything school.
Pretty great at everything school right now. Pretty great at everything. Seeing all the balls at the Polynesian Bowl. That'd be fun. Polynesian Bowl is the uniforms are cool. You get the cool visors. Get to hang out with other superstar kids getting ready to go to college. Tennessee's got a lot of kids.
Where is it played?
Hawaii.
That's the reason right there. I figured, but I wasn't 100%.
Yeah. But it's cool.
That's the reason right there to go to it.
Right? Like, that'd be a cool thing. That's like a bucket list thing. I would go to watch that and cover that one time. But Matt Green, we are not talking all things Polynesian Bowl and all the just 5-star and 4-star Tennessee Vols talent that are there. Even a quarterback headlining that one. One that also you had, Dylan Raiola, but no longer a Dog. Jake Merklinger and Dylan Raiola. He's a Nebraska Cornhusker, which is going to be very strange. But Matt Green, before we get into our theme of the day, which is we will be doing our preseason predictions revisited, we are going to talk a little bit here. Caleb Burns expected to enter the portal for the Alabama Crimson Tide. He was just so good as a true freshman. And I said Caleb Burns. I meant Caleb Downs.
I was just about to say, what'd you say?
Caleb Burns. And I think because Chase Burns, I'm thinking Tennessee baseball. Like, we were just on Tennessee baseball, and I have like Caleb Burns on the brain.
Caleb Burns?
There's Chase Burns.
Oh, okay.
The transfer from Tennessee, who
Cody Burns, that Auburn quarterback turned receiver, I think he might be a coach now.
Oh, you're talking about Cody Burns.
Yeah.
He was wide receiver coach for Tennessee, and then he went to the Saints.
Yeah,
he just got fired this week, I think. Actually.
Shout out to Cody Burns. You'll end on your feet.
I think he'll be all right. I think Cody Burns will be all right. Matt Green, we are going to talk about, Caleb Downs here on this very program, because he's obviously a Georgia kid, played football at Mill Creek High School, big time safety in 6A ball for the Hawks. And look, we'll see what happens here. The expectation is that he winds up back in his home state, the Peach State, but this would be huge. I mean, you get KJ Bolden as a late flip. Auburn thought they had him. He was obviously committed to Florida State, and he's a 5-star, just superstar in waiting. You played Malachi Starks as a true freshman. He had that same kind of pedigree that Bolden had coming in. He starts, he flourishes. Now you kind of wonder, and you and I were texting about this a little bit, like, you just take the best player, and you just take Caleb Downs. Like, he's plug and play, and Starks and Downs, easily the best safety combo Georgia's ever had. I saw some people like, it's the best since Greg Blue, and who else was back there? Who was back there with Blue?
Greg Blue and Thomas Davis.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, y'all, this is a little bit more like, all right, like that's
in
solid.
Fairness to that, 03, 04, 05, Georgia had Sean Jones, Thomas Davis, and then Greg Blue were all first-team All-Americans 3 years in a row at safety. So that is the best since then that they've had. But yeah, I mean, you look at what Kirby Smart's had. I mean, just every year since he's been at Georgia. Like, if it's J.R. Reed and Richard LeCount, like, those aren't superstars in the NFL or anything, but J.R. Reed was an All-American. Richard LeCount was a really good player at Georgia. Lewis Seen being a first-round pick. Javon Bullard, a potential first-round pick in this year's draft. So, yeah, I mean, getting Caleb Downs would just be an absolute just, I don't know, bombshell for the rest of the SEC. Like Ohio State was the runner-up when he was coming out of high school, so they're definitely, it's not a foregone conclusion that he's going to Georgia, but it's like you look at, like, this guy wanted to play for Nick Saban, right? Georgia was in the conversation. He went to high school 45 minutes, 45 minutes from Athens. I think there was supposedly the reason he didn't go to Georgia out of high school was because Georgia didn't offer Josh Downs, his older brother, that ended up at North Carolina. And, that still happened. So that history, if there's any animosity there or whatever there, maybe it's gone. But I think it would just be massive. Like, yeah, with KJ Bolden, you can worry about in 2024, you can't worry about anyone hitting the transfer portal. Like, it's going to happen. You got to worry about getting the best players you can get. And if it's crazy to think about 3 or 4 weeks ago, Georgia, we had these number one safeties in the country 3 years in a row, all from this 20-minute radius of northern Gwinnett and Jackson County. And 4 weeks ago, it looked like all three of them were going to go to different schools. So if Caleb Downs ends up at Georgia and all three of those are on Georgia's roster with a couple years of eligibility left, it's unreal what that's going to do for Georgia's defense next year at a position that was of need on Georgia's defense, which there aren't too many of year to year.
No, and I mean it's huge, it's scary, it's just the rich get richer here. But it's a bigger question though, and I saw the On3 host, Josh, is it Newenberg? Do you know what I'm talking about on the On3 show? He does a lot of recruiting interviews.
Sounds right, Josh Newberg.
Yes. He had a good tweet about just kind of, look, no one's like sobbing for the state of Alabama football. Like they've had, you're not gonna believe this, Matt Green. They've had a really good run at the University of Alabama over the last nearly 2 decades. But look, that can be true, and you can also look at what's happening here and say this kind of sucks for Alabama. This is not really fair, and this is his exact tweet, and I agree with this. The transfer portal needs to be fixed. This is what he tweeted. This situation with Alabama will cause change. Bama is penalized because they made the playoffs and Nick Saban retired afterward. The last team to make a change gets shafted in the portal. There's simply no players left in the portal to recruit. Top available players are the ones hitting the portal from Alabama. If Saban retired on December 1st, this wouldn't be happening. Needs to be fixed. He's not wrong, because Bama's losing dudes that they cannot replace this year. Eventually, yeah, they'll replace him on the road. They'll replace him on the trail, this, that, and the other. Like Kane Womack is a good hire, pulling him from South Alabama. A lot of good ties. Obviously, they both were coordinators at Indiana together. Good history. Brings in the Buffalo coach. Like bringing in 2 sitting G5 coaches to join as assistants on your staff. Good pulls from Kalen DeBoer. Like those are solid. He's made solid hires to this point in Alabama. Here's the problem. None of them have relationships with Caleb Downs. And it's just hard to keep these guys. And Caden Proctor, obviously, hitting the portal, it seems like he's going to wind up back in his home state in Iowa. Seems like that's where the tea leaves are, which it was expected that he was going to be there anyway out of high school. And he kind of shocked a lot of people by ending up at Alabama. But look, it's the nature of the beast. But I also think that is a fair gripe for Alabama fans to have right now, which is, look, we had a playoff run. Our coach retired at the end of this. Now we're getting picked apart because it's open season for the next 30 days. The portal's closed, and we can't replace these 5-star and 4-star guys who are walking out of the building. Isaiah Bond and Caleb Downs and Proctor and this, that, and the other. The guys aren't there. So, and we know what the portal does in May, where those guys don't. You need the spring. You need to learn the offense. You need that time at Alabama over these next 4 to 5 months to get ready for the fall. Like late spring transfers do not make impacts, generally speaking, on their first year at their respective schools. That's why you see so many high school kids enrolling early, because they need to be on campus. They need to be in the weight room. They need to be on the meal plan. They need to be around their teammates. They need to be learning the playbook. That Bama is kind of screwed in this way, and they are the ones right now who are screwed, but this is going to keep happening, I think, with coaching movement. Michigan is about to experience this because it seems like the writing is on the wall that Harbaugh, either it's the Chargers or it's the Falcons, it seems like he's gone. Like, he's interviewing a lot, and it seems like he's the next domino to fall. And Michigan will be in this boat where they will not have an opportunity to really replace the guys that they're going to get picked apart over their 30-day window when their coach leaves. I mean, I think this is fair, Matt Green. Wouldn't you say that, like, Bama is getting screwed here a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we sound like a broken record when we talk about it, but it's all the calendar. It's all
Mm,
about how just messed up this college football calendar is, because you're right. Like, Alabama is in a much better position if they lose the SEC championship and Nick Saban decides on December 9th that he's
mm.
done coaching in college football. Like, his career is over, you know? So the fact that they did get to the college football playoff, they did, come close to winning a national championship, then the portal closes, and then now they're just SOL. Everyone else it's open season on their roster, like you said, and there's nothing they can do. Because obviously, Alabama has taken a step back without Nick Saban. It's no longer as attractive as a destination, or at least a lot of other destinations are on par with it when Nick Saban is not the guy running the show. So, but with that said, there's obviously a bunch of guys around college football that, oh, there's spots open at Alabama. Yeah, I'll sign up today. Like, I would rather be at Alabama than my current spot, and that's not an option for Alabama. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, other than, like we've said over and over on here, like, the calendar needs to be changed up, and signing day needs to be in March after the college season's over, after the NFL season's over. But that brings in more complications. Or at the same time, we know even when we had the signing day only in February, guys could still enroll early and be a part of spring practice. So you can still have some hay in the barn even before that March signing day. But it's just the fact that, I mean, if you signed on to Alabama in the 2024 class, you were signing to Nick Saban. And 3 weeks later, that's no longer the case. And you're not wrong as a player to now want to go somewhere else.
It sucks for them, man. It just does. But look, you've had a lot of success. It's the nature of the beast. But Bama won't be the last team this happens to.
And
It's
they're
just
not the
they are the
first
team right
team
now.
this has happened to either.
Mm,
Like, I mean, you remember when Jeremy Pruitt was
30
fired at
players.
Tennessee and what that did to their roster? Yeah, exactly. Like, we've seen the transition that, like, Billy Napier has had to deal with. Like, it's just at LSU with Brian Kelly. Like, you've seen so many teams lose a bunch of guys, and you've seen Colorado turn over a roster in one season. So this is not the first team this is going to happen. Like, Colorado is more by choice, but this is not the first or the last time it's going to happen. And that's why, it sucks that, like, you kind of need that person of privilege for something to happen to, for everyone to really take notice of the problem. But maybe that's what it takes. Alabama just, we haven't seen the level of just, deterioration of a roster just so quickly. And maybe if Alabama is going 7-5 next year, it's like, okay, this might be a problem that, you will lose all continuity when you get a new staff. But I don't know. There's some solution out there. They got to do something, but this is not an Alabama problem by any means.
No. And we'll see what happens with Downs if he ultimately ends up at Georgia. But man, that is Malachi Starks and Caleb Downs in the back end for Georgia. That's
Yeah, that's
a little
two
scary.
potential top 10 picks. And with Caleb Downs having 2 years of eligibility left too, like, that's just, he's immediately the number one player in the transfer portal. Like, that's just that's big time. And Isaiah Bond, we didn't even talk about going to Texas
He's fine.
too. It's like, but I'm just saying, speaking to, what Alabama is losing on their roster, it's not a lot of proven talent coming back right now.
No. Matt Green, preseason predictions here. How do you want to do this? This is your bread and butter after another dub season for me in terms of the win losses and picking games, running away with that one. What feels like weeks ago, sir. kind of forgotten about our preseason predictions, but now that the college football 2023-2024 season has concluded, we're doing different themes on this very show each week to highlight different things over the college football season. And this episode, we're going to be talking about, I guess, revisiting what we did before the year in terms of our preseason predictions. So how did it unfold for us, sir?
All right, sir. So yeah, we're gonna have to attack this multiple different ways, but I'll start off with our over/under win totals. So we're not gonna go through every single over/under win total that we picked, but so we made our preseason predictions of all the over/unders on the season. It's kind of amazing. We did amazingly similar in this. So overall, on as far as our overall over/under win totals in the of Power 5 conferences. I was 31-37 on the season. You were 32-36.
Mm.
So our Pac-12 predictions were exactly the same. So that wasn't our best content, with we agreed with every single over under prediction. But in the Pac-12, we both predicted Oregon to win the Pac-12, and we were right that Oregon got to the Pac-12 championship. You had Utah losing to Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. I had USC. So we were both wrong there. Washington Huskies got it done. In the Big 12, we both predicted Texas winning the conference. I had Kansas State in the Big 12 championship. You had Texas Tech. So we both missed that with the conference. But we got the conference champion. So that's the best one we did. Clemson really let us down in the ACC. We both had Clemson winning the ACC. I had North Carolina in the ACC championship. You had Miami. Both of those let us down this year. In the Big Ten, sir, your Big Ten preseason champion, Michigan Wolverines, and in the Big Ten championship, you had them beating the Iowa Hawkeyes. So a round of applause right there for you. I had the Penn State Nittany Lions, of course, letting me down, and the Wisconsin Badgers also did not get it done. I think they were right there at the end, though, right? Did they finish second? I'm not even sure. No,
it doesn't matter. I will lock that thing up from the get-go. Never a doubt here in the Thomas household.
And then we'll definitely get into this as far as some of your bold predictions on the season. Probably your worst pick of the season, Texas A&M winning the SEC. You did have correctly picked Georgia losing the SEC championship. I had Georgia and Alabama in the SEC championship, but I incorrectly had the Dogs winning the SEC. So anything stand out right there with our conference predictions that you wanna touch on?
Yeah, the quarterbacks getting injured screwed mine in some of these. So like Michigan, Iowa, never a doubt. That's hey, nailed that one. Utah, though, well, it's a what if. Cam Rising never played the whole year. We never saw Cam Rising.
Day to day for the entire season.
Yes, the man was never seen nor heard. He was a Milford man to the end of the year. Just neither seen nor heard. Every sideline for the Utah Utes. But that one hurts. That one stings. But also, Connor Wegman, man, he was dealing. Look, Jimbo got fired. The season got away from them. But the Petrino hire looked okay. Like it wasn't like they weren't turning a corner there a little bit, and it's just gonna be a what if. Like I think Mike Elko is a good hire. I think Texas A&M's on the right path. But look, I don't know. There's gonna be a what if. I'm sure in Jimbo's side of things where there was a lot of talent on that team, and if Connor doesn't get hurt because he was balling a little bit. I don't know what their season looks like. I don't think they would have won the SEC, but I do think he was on his way to a pretty electric season in College Station. So that's kind of a interesting what if for me. It's just, look, I felt pretty good about Georgia not repeating because it's just hard. And it's just really hard. And Georgia found that out. It's just this margin for error is so slim in this conference.
They did repeat. They didn't three-peat.
Yeah, they didn't three-peat. That's what I'm saying. Like to do it 3 times is just... there's a reason it hasn't been done since Minnesota 100 years ago. And look, maybe going back, I was like, I didn't buy the LSU, and I just went with my gut of like talent and Wegman, and the Petrino boomer bust factor. But Bama was inevitable with Saban, and of course, he ended his SEC Bama coaching career with a SEC title, maybe his hardest one, given all the different circumstances throughout the year. But I don't think anyone who saw that Alabama team struggle at USF would be the team that ended up representing the SEC West in the title game. But
You think
kudos to them.
you think Saban knew this 2024 team was going to be worse than
No,
2023? That's why he hung it up?
no, I don't think so.
No? I don't know. This is a tough coaching job this year. Like they had to scratch and claw their way.
I
But they
would say
did it.
Bama would have been figured like before the portal and everything that got destroyed. I don't know. I think Bama would have been better in 2024 than last year.
Maybe we'll see.
We'll never know.
Well, yeah, we'll never know. So then our college football playoff predictions, sir. Between the two of us, we got one of these correct. So I'll start with you. You had Tennessee, Clemson, Ohio State, and Texas A&M, with A&M beating Ohio State in the national championship game. So you were a solid 0 for 4 there. I'm not sure. Did any of those teams make their conference championship? Did Clemson? Who played in the ACC championship?
Florida State, Louisville.
Yeah. So not your best work. Myself, on the other hand, Penn State, incorrect. Texas, the one I got right. And then I had Georgia beating Clemson in the national championship. So 1 for 4 on my end. Our Heisman predictions, sir. I had Drake May of North Carolina winning the Heisman, Caleb Williams, Brock Bowers, Quinn Ewers as the other finalist. 0 for 4 right there. You had Connor Wegman on your all Texas A&M predictions.
I bought a lot of Texas A&M offseason stock. I went boom or bust. It was either going to pay off in a major way and I was going to look like a genius, or it was going to make me look silly. And unfortunately, it made me look silly.
Carson Beck, which was a wrong answer, which I feel like he could have been a Heisman finalist. And honestly, if Georgia wins the SEC championship, he probably is a Heisman finalist. Caleb Williams on yours, and then Bo Nix. So you did get one of the Heisman finalists. And then we got 4 bold predictions here, sir. How do you want to do this? You want to? So we're gonna rank these, okay? Like a 10 if it's a perfect prediction, 10 if it's a terrible prediction. We're gonna give it a 1. So let's start off with my first prediction: Penn State winning the Big Ten, making the college football playoff. What do you give this prediction, sir? It's obviously wrong, but what do you give the prediction? And like its chances to be right.
Oh, 10.
Oh, well, it's obvious you can't give it a 10 because it was obviously wrong.
Oh, you meant? Oh, wait, I got it backwards. 1. Sorry, there was no chance of that ever happening.
Oh,
like, what are we doing? How many more years of this do you have to see? Like, unless Michigan and Ohio State go on simultaneous probation, like that was never happening, Matt Green. I don't know how many more years you have to see of this.
I stand by this prediction.
You just love you hate just picking Michigan. It's so boring. It's like the whole boring factor. You just hate taking it over and over again.
I give it a 5 because the prediction, and I know Michigan just won the national championship. They were a great team, but I don't put them up there with some of the national champions we've seen in recent years.
This is such a Georgia
Michigan
fan thing to
do. Can throw shade if they want. But Michigan was a beatable team. Like the way they were designed. Like
they literally didn't lose a game.
I know, but they were a beatable team. Like you saw Penn State had 0 offense and they were in that game for 4 quarters. Like I think this prediction was built on Ohio State and Michigan. I think you can argue that the 2022 Michigan team was better than the 2023 Michigan team. They just happened to lose to TCU in kind of a freak game. Like
I think the defense was a lot better this year.
I mean, maybe the schedule was just so absurd for like 10 weeks. It was just the easiest thing you've ever seen. So the Penn State prediction, I think a lot of it was about Michigan and Ohio State not being dominant, which I think was the case. I don't think those were like dominant, great teams. Michigan, you could argue, was. Ohio State clearly was. And this was a down year for Ohio State. So with that, atmosphere, that climate, I felt like this was Penn State's year. And so I still give the prediction like a 4 or a 5, because I think Ohio State and Michigan was a lot of what it was based on. But obviously, Penn State, they didn't get it done this year, and I'm not sure James Franklin's ever breaking through. But I'll tease a little 12-team playoff conversation for our future pod that Penn State might be in better position than some people realize.
Oh wow, he can't quit him. He
so
can't.
let me go to your first prediction. I give it a 4. It's a failing grade still.
Okay.
But your first prediction, Alabama going 8-4 and Nick Saban retiring. I'm giving this prediction a 5 because I'm with you that I thought Alabama was going to take a step back, but 8-4 was obviously way off. They went 11-1, won the SEC.
Hold on, not
but you
way
were
off.
you were 50% correct, and Nick Saban did actually retire, so I'll give you some credit for that.
Hold on. I wasn't that far off. You're over here talking like Michigan was like a more beatable team than their undefeated record shows. Bama flirted with 8-4 this year, folks. Like Bama very much flirted with 8-4. This was a rough 2023 football season for Alabama. I need to remind the good folks, you beat Auburn on a prayer here. So that would have been loss number what? Let's say you don't get the prayer in Jordan Hare. What is that? 2 losses right there?
That's a second loss, yeah.
2 losses, right? All right, number 3. You're down multiple scores at home at the half. You needed a 28-0 perfect second half to beat Tennessee at home. A very, very painfully average Tennessee team this year. 8-4, 9-3 at their absolute
best. They
best.
were controlling that game by like the fourth quarter.
Hold on, that's fine. It took you had to be perfect.
It was a ridiculous third quarter for sure.
Yes.
Tennessee was dominating for 2 quarters.
You beat Arkansas by 3 at home. A bad Arkansas team. Barely scraped by. Don't know what happened there. You lose, obviously you get stomped at home by Texas. You then barely beat A&M on the road, 26-20 as well. Another 6-point win. There's a lot of 50-50 games on this Bama calendar this past fall. They were beatable. Bama was in a lot of dogfights this fall. It wasn't
do you know what was also a dogfight?
What?
Was the Rose Bowl, which they were winning until like a minute left in the fourth quarter when Michigan took the lead.
Yeah.
Or Michigan tied it and went to overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so they, with all of those flaws, this team still was, one defensive stop away from getting to the
They just didn't feel like an 11-1 Bama team of old. So when people were like, they turned it on and this, that, and the other, they just never felt like an 11-1 team. And 8-4 is probably too much, but it felt like a 9-3, 10-2 type situation. They did not feel like the Bama of old.
You've convinced me. I turned my 5 into a 6. I'll give you just over 50% because Nick Saban retiring. I'm with you.
That was a good call.
But this team did almost win the national championship. Like, let's not they were this close from actually playing for the title and on a neutral field. Like, they could have beaten Washington. Like,
yeah.
So it's hard to say 8-4 was close to being right. But yeah, they played a bunch of dogfights. I don't think Saban could handle it. I think he said as much. He couldn't handle another season like this.
All right. Where are we going next?
My second pick, bold prediction, Brock Bowers, Heisman finalist. And this one, I'm going to give this prediction a 5 because Brock Bowers getting hurt and missing a couple games really threw this off because I think you had the Heisman moment early in the season with the Auburn game where he just kind of took over in the fourth quarter and had the game-winning touchdown. So half of the battle in being a Heisman finalist is the narrative, right? It's just like the story, Georgia going for their 3rd straight national championship, Brock Bowers trying to win a 3rd straight national championship. So, obviously if they win the SEC and he doesn't miss those like 2 or 3 games there, obviously there's a chance he is a Heisman finalist. So I feel like we didn't have all the information. So I stand by the prediction. I think it still could have happened if there was a tight end that could be a Heisman finalist. It was going to be him. And like Carson Beck, like Georgia threw for like the 3rd, 4th most passing yards in the country this year. Like the yards were there to be had, but with Bowers missing a few games, that really hurt his case. And obviously he had to have the team success. He had to have the undefeated record next to his name. Like our Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't. And honestly, with the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr. was a finalist with like not a great year, like he had a great year, but it was like it wasn't a Heisman year, right? Like he wasn't like having these moments of like, oh, you remember that catch you made this game? Oh, he did this, that game. It was like Ohio State had such kind of a kind of underwhelming season that it was just he had the name recognition and you knew how good he was. And so it's kind of like I felt like that's why he was ultimately a Heisman finalist. And Bowers without missing those games and Georgia potentially winning in the SEC, like he could have been right there. So
Well, I
I
think
give
it
it a
was
5.
more because everything is narrative based with that, and it's already the odds are stacked against tight ends making it to that point anyway. But what Bowers needed was disrespect to Carson Beck, right? Like Carson Beck needed to be like they didn't want to give Stetson Bennett the Heisman last year. They didn't want to get Stetson Bennett to New York. Like Stetson, it didn't matter what he did. It was just the narrative surrounding Stetson
Honestly, I
was
think they did. I think it was like his stats weren't there, and then he had like 4 or 5 touchdowns. I think the SC championship, and I was like, okay, his stats look a little bit better. Let's get him in there.
well, right, but I'm saying that was at the end. That's at the tail end of Georgia's season in 2022.
Yeah,
We saw early on where NFL mock draft types were like, "Oh, Carson's an NFL quarterback. Carson's a first round pick. Carson could slide his way into the top 10. Oh, Carson might be the number one quarterback taken if he enters the draft. Like Carson,
but as a skill player, you do need a good quarterback play to
no,
have
no,
a
no.
good
I don't
season.
disagree, but I'm saying when he's on your team and you're a tight end, it just it just kind of convolutes your case because the attention will always go back to the quarterback. And Beck stole a lot of shine from I think Bowers and company this year because I think when we look back on this 2023 Georgia team offensively, I mean you could speak more to this than me, but I think the lasting memory will be Carson Beck was for real. Carson Beck sat and waited and threw darts everywhere. And Carson Beck looks like the best NFL quarterback prospect Georgia's had since Stafford. So I think that is what you'll remember most, not Brock Bowers. And part of that was the injury and stuff, but like it just felt like to me, Bowers had more juice to the Heisman 2 years ago than this year. And a lot of that was because Carson Beck just looked like a prototypical Heisman quarterback and also lived up to the hype in the preseason.
I mean, I think that's fair, but I think the injury play is a big reason why you feel that way because the Florida game there was some juice around the Florida game. Like what does Georgia do without Brock Bowers and for Carson Beck to kind of not miss a beat? That kind of not that it penalizes Bowers, but it kind of like takes away from maybe how valuable he is. Where it's like, oh, this offense is humming without Brock Bowers, so maybe he's great, but they look pretty great without him too.
Yeah. What's the next one, Matt Green?
All right, your second bold prediction: the Pac-12 will not make the CFP.
Mm,
This was incorrect, sir. I'm giving it a 2 because not
mm.
only was the Pac-12 championship one of the only conference championships that was legitimately winner is in, regardless of who wins the championship. A lot of people thought this was the best conference in college football this year, and we got multiple contenders from this conference. So I'm giving it a 2, sir. Terrible, terrible, terrible prediction.
No, they cannibalized themselves for years, and part of the reason that I said that they wouldn't was because that it was cloudy at the top. Like Washington, Oregon, and Utah and USC were going to beat each other, and it was just like we've seen this over and over and over again. And look, they did not this year. Washington stayed perfect, and I think even if Washington loses the Pac-12 title game, I think Oregon would have been in. Uh, I guess I don't know. What do you think? Would Oregon have been in if they had won the Pac-12 title game no matter what? Were they a
Yeah,
lock?
absolutely. I mean, that
Okay.
was what number 3 versus number 5.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure. Like, so Oregon was a lock. So like the Pac-12 just kind of locked themselves in to the title game, to a CFP appearance before the Pac-12 title game, which was something I did not anticipate. But yeah, I mean, I also think part of it Cam Rising and Utah were down. Like, Utah getting hurt, their quarterback going down, ruined a lot of the Pac-12 just volatility because Utah wasn't at their full strength to ruin Washington, Oregon, and USC's season. They weren't there to finish 10-2, 11-1, and also make sure that
And
no Pac-12 team made it into the CFB. That
you
was a
know what I
lot of my
bet a big
calculus.
part what I bet a big part of your prediction was that USC was that sexy Pac-12
Hmm.
team. And it's like
Nailed that one, by the way.
not buying USC.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like then it's like, well, I don't know if they're gonna have anybody that can be undefeated, one loss, and then we saw the Washington Huskies.
All right, where are we going next, Matt Green?
All right, this next one, man, I still stand by this one because it was so close to being right. 2-loss SEC, the SEC West champ would be a 2-loss team this year, was essentially my prediction. The other half of that prediction was that it would be Alabama, LSU, and A&M would all end up with 2 losses this year. But for Alabama, one of those would be a non-conference loss. So I did get that non-conference loss, but Alabama found a way to win the SEC with just 1 loss, and A&M was obviously way wrong. Ole Miss was the 2-loss team that really got in there. So the fact that you kind of ran through it with Alabama, they did have so many close games. Like they definitely had losable games. If not for a miracle in Jordan Hare at the end of the season, they would have been a 2-loss SEC West champ. But I'm going to give it a 7. It's a passing grade, but obviously, I was incorrect on that one. But I'd do it again.
I think that's a great. I mean, 10 is like it's a good pick, right? And 1, it was just out of this world, stupid.
Yeah.
I think that's a 10 for me
Oh, I
because
appreciate it, sir.
the way the like Bama was down, LSU still wasn't there. I didn't trust the defense. Still just year 3, I thought we'll see here with LSU and Brian Kelly and company. It was gonna be hard for them to run it back. And then Texas A&M always stumbles a little bit. Like Jimbo Fisher was not gonna go perfect
Yeah.
or a 1-loss team. Like you could just see it. Like I think that was before this year. You could absolutely see the and Ole Miss too. Someone who like if they get 10 wins again, like they're still looking at somewhere like 10-2, somewhere in that range. So I think you're right in that the top of the West was very jumbled, and there was not a lot separating the best of the best. There was not a lot of separation at the top, and Bama was closer to the rest of the pack than they've ever been.
For sure. And this next one I would say is our only prediction that's not definitively wrong, but so this is your prediction. Your prediction being Colorado is very bad.
I
And
nailed
I'm not
this.
sure what to ask. I don't know if I can say you nailed it. They made plays, like they made a name for themselves. They had a couple big wins, but at 4-8, I gotta say you're very bad, I guess, right? So
They were not a good football team.
I'll give you a 9 because it's
Okay.
not a perfect. Because I feel like they created some buzz, which is half
They
the
were
battle. They weren't
124th in defense this year, Matt Green. They fired their offensive coordinator midseason, Sean Kelly, who was actually good at his job, and they went to Pat Shurmur. Like, it was a disaster this year. Colorado football was a disaster. I mean, it was fun
like
early
they
on, like
blew
you
the
said.
like the 30-point lead or something against Stanford. Like
It was rough.
there was. They didn't get blown out in very many games. Like that Oregon game, once they
Because
got
they kept
blown
coming
out,
back.
it's
They
like
got down in big holes, and they came back.
yeah, for sure. They were not a good football team. So that was the most correct of any of our bold predictions here. So I'll give you a 9 with that one.
Yeah, I mean, you lost to Washington State 56-14, man. Down the stretch. Like it look, they lose. Okay, how many did they lose in a row in the year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight.
Yeah, and like they got to play TCU when they were ranked also. So like people thought
It
that was
looked
a
a lot
big
better.
win.
Nebraska looked a lot better, and we found out both were like, oh no.
Yeah. No, that's
And let me be clear, still like Dion, still like Shador a lot, still like Travis Hunter a lot, but my bet was like you're replacing a lot of these kids with G5 kids, with JUCO kids, with Jackson State kids, and it's just you're in a Power 5 conference, and the Pac-12 was loaded. I didn't trust the depth on this team. The offensive line was horrific, and Shador was just getting his brains beat in week over week, and Travis Hunter got hurt. It was all a mess, and I don't. It's just weird to me that we're not seeing more of an emphasis on high school from in year 2 here from Dion. Like they didn't have many high school commits in this cycle either. You obviously get a big 5-star kid in Jordan Seaton. That's a big get. But you've had big gets already. Like Travis Hunter is a big get. Cormani McLean is a big get, but he didn't help at all last year. You need other bodies. Like it's almost better if you're Colorado is to not get those 5 stars and get like 3, 4 stars. Like that would actually help you more because it's just not basketball. You can't just have a couple 5 stars and then a bunch of 2 and 3 stars and then expect to really compete at an elite level. So I don't really know what the plan is in Colorado. And I'm very confused by why they're not investing more in
the
that.
plan is to accumulate the talent that you can get, and it's like you just have to do it by any means, and maybe kind of unorthodox means because you're Colorado and you just kind of have to find a way to get the talent there.
But lock down your borders. Like Tennessee went in and took your best tackle. Why is Gage Genther a Vol and not a Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, are you worried about the talent in Colorado? Like how much talent's coming out of
what I'm saying is like you should be winning. You need to lock those gimmies down is what I'm saying. Like you need to have the best players in the state of Colorado playing for Colorado. Like why is the best offensive tackle prospect in your state at Tennessee? How does that happen?
Yeah.
That's
fair.
All right. Where are we going next?
Both of our last bold predictions were actually both about the Iowa Hawkeyes. Your prediction being that they would be in the CFP race in November. My prediction being that they averaged 25 points per game. They did not average 25 points per game. They averaged 15.4 points per game, which was 132nd out of 133 teams. And somehow they went 10-4. But you were still not. That laugh or noise you made over there, it sounded like you thought you were correct, that they were in the CFP race in November?
Hold on. Just to be clear, folks, Matt Green's just laughing off the Hawkeyes once again. Here's the problem with this take, Matt Green. They lose to Penn State. That was embarrassing. 31-0, right?
Yeah.
They won every other regular season game before getting shut out. They actually got shut out the last 2 games of their college football season against Tennessee and Michigan, but they beat Minnesota. I don't know if people remember this or not, but there was a crazy punt call, special teams call that cost them the game. Like Iowa won that game if that call does not happen. And then you're looking at an 11-1 Iowa team in the Big Ten title game. And if they beat Michigan, which obviously they got pounded, but they would have controlled their own destiny in December and been in the college football playoff if they beat Michigan, if that Minnesota call does not go the other way. The way we talk about Iowa is insane. I'm like, they were a bad call away from controlling their own college football playoff destiny in December. I stand by that take. That was a great take by me. Great take.
Close games or close wins only apply to Alabama? Like
no, they're Iowa, man. I called Alabama all year, 8-4. I called them an Iowa-ass team all year.
I was probably 3 points away from losing like 5 or 6 more games last year. Like,
no, man. Iowa's defense, they put the clamps on you, man. 2014, 15-6, 41-10, 2013.
Well, they were unranked going into November. By November 24th, they were ranked 20th. So I'm gonna have to say that was incorrect. They were a good team. Somehow they were the worst good team probably in the history of college football. But yeah, that Nebraska Friday night or Friday after Thanksgiving game, like one of the more fun games of the college football season, honestly. 13-10. That game was great. But yeah, I'd say 25 points per game. With that being the prediction, they were at 15. I mean, my prediction's got to be about a 1. Somehow they were even worse on offense than we predicted. Cade McNamara, just watch what we're about to do on offense.
Well, he's back next year, but also look, hey, why is this job not getting filled? Like Paul Christ reportedly turned it down. Like he's staying as like an analyst or whatever at Texas. It's like all Iowa needs is an average offensive mind. Like, you come in there, it's not like they don't produce talent. They produce NFL wide receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends, offensive tackles.
Wide receiver. I know they produce tight ends. I don't know about wide receivers.
I threw in the wide receivers. They've had one.
Linemen and tight ends. I don't know
They're
how
out
they're
here producing
tight ends.
first round white cornerbacks, Matt Green. Like something like they're just out here doing all kinds of stuff. I don't know. I just don't understand why that job is just like maybe just because you know that Brian Ferentz is gonna or Kirk Ferentz is gonna have his DNA all over your offense. But like, man, if Iowa can just get like Paul Chris would have been perfect based on what we saw from Wisconsin and what they did. Like that would have been solid. That would have been great for them. I don't understand it. I don't know why that job is hard to fill.
Yeah, I mean it's who knows? They haven't
Get Bill
played.
O'Brien over there. Let's get Bill O'Brien in Iowa.
We haven't seen good offense since what, like Drew Tate, since Brian Banks back in the
No,
day.
they've been better since. Like, hold on. Ricky Stanzi had some good years.
I don't know. It's been a while since we saw Iowa play any good offense.
Goodson and company. Who was the Albert Young? Was that his name? The big back. I don't remember
I
it.
remember Sean Green was like
Sean Green is yes, Sean Green.
He was what am I? Doak Walker finalist, I want to say. But yeah, that's all we got for the bold predictions. What was your best prediction of the preseason?
Out of all those,
or just maybe it didn't make the list, but just like your best prediction of the college football season.
The Georgia wouldn't repeat. That was the common one that a lot of people were just talking. They're like, I just don't see how Georgia doesn't three-peat. And I was like, Georgia's not three-peating. Like, just keep selling. You're just burning money. Like, it's just too hard in this world of college football to be able to do that. I just thought it was just throwing money away. Colorado being bad, I felt really good about that one before the year that was going to end up being the case. Probably Brock. I don't know. The A&M one hurts because I just the what if of if they were all healthy and they kept it all together. I don't know. A lot of talent out the door. Evan Stewart, Oregon now. Oregon's gonna be scary. I don't know. That's tough. I guess my Iowa. You know what? I'm gonna stand on my Iowa Hawkeyes. Like that's my favorite one. Where I'm like, I got a lot of grief because I'm over here saying
they were
that they're
not
gonna.
in the CFP race.
They were.
They were.
Minnesota doesn't happen. They're in the CFP race.
Hey, if we're fifth, we'd all be drunk.
No, Iowa deserves credit, man.
I would say my best prediction was Texas beating Alabama and just being actually legit this year. But my worst predictions, like I said, part of me still stands on my Penn State prediction. You know, I'm not the person who picks them every year. So I don't feel like scarred by Penn State. But my worst prediction is definitely Clemson. Like I thought Garrett Riley was going to come in and fix that offense. And, you know, the talent that Clemson had, they're going to get back to, you know, being where they're supposed to be in the ACC. And now I feel like I don't know if Clemson will ever be back to what they used to be. So Clemson, I went from thinking it was a blip year or two to, you know, that dynasty might be over forever.
I don't know. It's so stupid. I'm talking myself back into him next year where I'm like, I don't know, man. Clemson, buy some Clemson stock because Florida State's down. The ACC's open next year, and we'll see how it all unfolds. But I don't know. I can't quit. I can't quit Clemson yet. It's so stupid, Matt Green. I just can't do it. Year 2 with Garrett Riley in this system.
Yeah, for sure. What's your worst prediction of the season?
Oh, A&M.
Yeah, no question. And then most surprising team of the season for you?
Most surprising probably
There's only one answer here to me, but what are you saying?
You know what? I would say Missouri.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Missouri being as good and legitimately, like you could make the case Missouri was the second best, or third best, second best, something like that. Because we never saw Missouri, Alabama. I would have been curious to see how
they're not the second best though.
I don't know. Missouri would have played Bama well. Like
the
Missouri team that we saw this past year would have played Bama very well. I think Missouri being legitimately really good and a legitimate top 10 team was the biggest surprise. I think Ohio State struggling as much as they did offensively all year long was the other big one. I didn't think Ohio State with this much talent and company and Kyle McCord would be that bad, and that offense would just be that anemic in big games. Kind of surprised me, even with Brian Day and
That's
company. And
that's a good call because I mean, we weren't super high on Ohio State, but we've never
mm,
seen them look like just every other Big Ten team, just
mm,
playing really solid defense and just kind of average offense. So, yeah, Ohio State being as pedestrian as they were, I would say Missouri just actually being a legit top 10 team, but also the team I hate on and definitely hated on midseason, the Ole Miss Rebels. I
that
mean,
wasn't a
they turned
surprise for
out
me
to be
though.
pretty legit,
Yeah,
like 11-2 on the season. Like, I did not see that coming from Ole Miss at all.
that's fair. Also, Louisville making the ACC title game as a in year one for Brom, I think was a big stunner. He's ahead of schedule, especially with Jack Plummer as your QB. He's bounced around multiple times and make it do. I think that was a sneaky big one for them. Is Louisville just being really good right away for Jeff Brom? That guy can coach.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, in Washington, definitely being in the national championship game is obviously a surprising one. Even if they had top 10 love coming into the season, no, I don't think anyone saw that coming.
No. All right, Matt Green. Well, that's all I've got, sir. That was a fun exercise. I enjoyed that going back down memory lane of what we did this preseason, and but before you know it, we'll be doing our 2024 preseason picks and a totally different college football landscape where all SEC games are on ESPN and ABC, and we got
Yeah,
Texas and
got
Oklahoma in here.
got to be transparent with the listeners. You know,
Yeah,
maybe they heard all that and they're like, "Well, I'm definitely not listening to these guys." Bold predictions next season. But you know what? That's your prerogative. You can do that. That might be a good call. We didn't say to put money on these,
well, you could
but
also go
I
against us.
there you
You,
go. So it's worth something.
yeah, you
You
can listen to it and be
you
like, all
figure
right,
out what
that's
it
what I'm
is.
not gonna do next year. Whatever they say. So, Matt Green, thank you as
Definitely
always, my
not
friend.
taking A&M next year.
I am not taking an AM next year. I don't know what I'm doing. Probably
So
Texas.
Aggies fans, that's your who knows? It could be a good thing.
Probably Texas. I'm probably picking Texas, but we'll see. We have time. I think Texas and Georgia are the best teams in the SEC next year, but we shall
Oh,
see. Matt Green, thank you as always, my friend, and I will talk to you very soon.
yes, sir.